Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Well, what an honor to have in the studio with us today Representative Dennis Richardson, who's the Republican candidate for the state of Oregon governorship. The governor.
Nice.
How are you? Good to see you, man. And you look pretty good for down to the last minute.
For 15 months.
Yeah.
Full time.
You've been going at it full time, haven't you?
Yeah. Since Pioneer Day, July 24th, 2013, it's been full time.
Wow. Well, the ballots are out.
That's right.
And
15
there's no
days.
excuse not to vote, right?
The number one deciding factor will be the turnout of those that care about our economy and about education and about the corruption that we're seeing in the governor's office. The conservatives, the God-fearing people need to vote.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of liberals that are not going to be voting for this governor because they're just done with him.
Yeah.
But it's going to be about our turnout that makes the difference.
Well, you'd think 12 years would be enough.
I think so. I mean, he wants another term. I mean, in China, they call that a dynasty.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not Oregon.
Well, listen, I know this is hard to talk about, but it seems that his personal problems are just now are insurmountable. How can he govern?
Well, he is a huge problem because he's viewing Sylvia Hayes as a fiancée, and he's also the governor. So he has a responsibility to her, and he also has a responsibility to all the citizens. And he's chosen to try and protect her, even though it's corrupt. He doesn't think it's a problem that she tripled her income just last year by receiving payments from companies that wanted access to the government.
Right.
She doesn't see it as a problem. He doesn't see it's a problem that his advisor on the CRC, the bridge project, collected over $550,000 from the general contractor on that project while she's giving advice to the governor.
Wow.
He thinks that's okay. I say, no, that's not okay. That's corruption.
Wow. And I guess it'll just have to evolve and see what comes out of this. But it has popped up at the tail end of this campaign. People are now shaking their head and saying, wait a minute, time out. We don't need it. We don't need this on top of a state that doesn't seem to be friendly to business and all the other issues that are going on.
That's right. I mean, our economy is in the tank. All of the states around us are doing much better than we are. We've had high unemployment, higher than the national average for 18 years, which means we don't have enough jobs.
Right.
I mean, 4 of our kids have had to move to other states to get decent jobs.
Wow.
We have 1 in 5 Oregonians on food stamps. That's not acceptable.
Wow.
Since he was the Senate president and the governor in the 90s, Oregon's gone from 22nd in per capita income to 33rd. We're like $8,000 a year less income than Washington State's employees. It's just not working for us.
All right, and cover Oregon. What a debacle. And I guess we're going to have to default to the federal system, right? And
that's right.
And that's supposed to be an improvement.
The federal system is excited about what's happened in Oregon because Oregon's failure makes them look good. Realize they're going to have to re-enroll every person who got a policy from Cover Oregon. And the governor says, we've added 350,000 new policyholders or insureds in Oregon, but he fails to mention the vast majority of them are Medicaid. And we were signing up people for the Oregon Health Plan, for a couple decades. So it's not about Cover Oregon. Cover Oregon is an abject failure. It's a waste. He refused to manage it like he should. The CRC Bridge Project, Cover Oregon's $300 million, the CRC Bridge Project, $190 million, and his cronies got paid, but we still don't have a bridge.
We're pushing basically $500 million here on his policies, gone down the drain. There's not that I mean, you got nothing to show for it. There's nothing on the table that shows we spent $500 million and there's something tangible you can point to.
Yeah, and he's hidden it so much. In fact, remember when he said, we're taking responsibility for Cover Oregon and I'm firing some people? One person that got fired was a woman named Triz De La Rosa, and she said, you're not going to hurt my reputation with this. I'm not a fall person for you. I'm going to sue you. So they paid her hush money, $67,000 for her agreement not to sue and not to talk about the governor or Cover Oregon.
Now, was that hush money our tax dollars?
Oh, it's tax dollars, absolutely. He doesn't see anything wrong with that. It's all about him. I mean, the guy acts like an aristocrat, not like a servant of the people.
All right, so we got to feel governor and a failed leadership, and now, you know, we're the ones that, I say we, Oregonians, elected him again. You know, so we're 12 years into this thing. It doesn't work. As you were to prioritize, and I know jobs is right up there, what do you plan to do to get business hiring more people and stopping businesses going to Nevada and down to Texas and coming to Oregon?
Well, first you have to identify what your burdens are, what the barriers are that prevent Oregon business from expanding.
Land use laws is one of them.
Land use laws is one, permitting is one, the delays, the costs, all of these things have just developed because there's no oversight to it. Then you also need a governor who is the ambassador for Oregon businesses. I mean, the way that you create jobs in the private sector is by expanding the demand for products and services. You expand your GDP, and that requires more people to meet the demand. That creates jobs. And so I will be the ambassador for our state. I want to name right out of the chute a lieutenant governor from my office whose sole job will be to go to our foreign trade partners and develop greater demand for Oregon products and services. And then I'll go over and be the closer on those things. But we need an office in China. We need to have a place for consumers and businesses in China to know about Oregon and to buy our products and services, as well as other countries. And we need to have somebody going to other states. I mean, Rick Perry's done a good job with this in Texas.
But he's done the first thing first, and that was he got regulation out of the way and he opened up land use.
Right.
What can we do in that area?
Depends on who is in charge of the House and the Senate. And as governor, I have to deal with the reality of power. I mean, there's a saying that I mention that is, good intentions are often thwarted by the failure to consider the reality of power. And so if the same leaders are in charge of the House and the Senate, then I'm going to have to work with them on getting those things done that we can get done. And land use will be low on their agenda. If we have the ability for me to find out what they want and negotiate with them, possibly we can go to a regional land use system, which would make a whole lot more sense than what we've got now with Salem making determinations for the whole state.
It appears now, going into this midterm election, that you could get a turnover in the House and the Senate's in play. Your thoughts on that? Or do you feel that? I mean, you're traveling the whole state. Do you get the feel for that?
It's uncertain, but I believe it can happen. It depends on the turnout. I mean, when people get fed up with the governor, they go out and vote. They might as well vote for, you know, to turn over the incumbency. When you get fed up, then often what you do is you go and you say, we're just going to start fresh. And so that's the attitude that I think we're having in the state. We'll see what happens on November 4th, but I'm planning. One of the avenues is that we'll have a Republican as in charge of the House and Republicans in charge of the Senate and a Republican governor, which will give us the opportunity to go through the system and determine what are those things that are causing our education system to be next to the last in graduation rates and our economy to be in the doldrums and our high unemployment rates, and what can we do to clean up the governor's office and remove the fraud, waste, abuse, the corruption, the scandals that has plagued Oregon and made us a national joke.
Every proposed program that would result in some kind of a fee increase or even a tax increase is always attached to education. Always attached. Well, we're going to go in and clean up the forest, and some of that money is going to go to education. And you know the drill. Everything gets attached to it, but yet here we are down. What more money do they need, and what would it solve?
Well, I don't define success in education by how much money you throw at the problem.
Right.
I define it by what are your outcomes and what kind of resources do you need to obtain those outcomes. And so we don't know what that price tag is. The quality education model is thrown out there, but that is something that was done, you know, more than a decade ago, and it's still used. We need to look at the top education systems in Oregon, where they have nearly 100% graduation rate, and there's a number of them, and at the top education systems and high achievement education programs all across the country. We can learn from the successes and failures of others. We should have evidence-based reform, and then that reform will have a price tag. And whatever it's going to take for us to implement the kind of education system that will give our students in Oregon a world-class education, that's what we're going to need to pay. We don't know what that is yet, but it's not just about more money. It's about the strategic use of the resources that we have.
Why do you think then we're so low? What's the problem?
We're so low because we're not meeting the needs of students. It's about protecting the status quo. I mean, when you have next to the highest dropout rate, realize almost a third of Oregon students are not graduating with their classmates. They're not dropping out because they love school. They're not dropping out because it's meeting their needs. It's the opposite. And so basically now we're focusing almost 100% of our attention on getting kids ready to go to college, and less than 25% actually do it. And so what about the other 75%? What about the need for us to have training in the trades and shops and art and music and areas where people can make a living without having to go to college? So you need to have both, but you need to focus on the outcomes you want for all students.
I've heard some research organizations say that the average student coming out of high school in Oregon is not prepared to go to college. In fact, they need some kind of interim help to get them to go to college level, and they want a lot of money to go there. Why are we spending money there? Why aren't we producing students who are prepared to go to college? Is this part of the Common Core or the current curriculum? What's the deal here?
Well, Common Core is going to is just another federally backed program that completely avoids input from parents, teachers, and local school districts. It eliminates local control in any way. We've been trying to control it from Salem. Now we're going to let it be controlled by Washington, D.C. The people that understand the students best are those that are closest to them. And so the state needs to provide the outcomes and resources to help accomplish those. We need to reward those that do the best and help those that are not achieving it to learn from those that are. And so it's a different approach from what we've had in the past. I'm going to have to work with the unions to make it happen, but they are tired also of John Kitzhaber. People may not realize this. The Oregon Education Association, the OEA, the teachers union, is not endorsing Kitzhaber. They're not giving him any money in the primary, they didn't, and they're not in the general election, although they were a key component to him winning in 2010. They're done with Kitzhaber.
Wow. All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be right back with Dennis Richardson, and he is the Republican candidate for governor for the state of Oregon. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Representative Dennis Richardson, and he is the Republican candidate for governor for the state of Oregon. You served in the House how many years?
11 years.
11 years, and ended up being the budget hawk. Everybody in Salem will tell you, if there's anybody that understands the budgeting process in the state of Oregon, Representative Richardson had his thumb on the pulse. He just gets it. I want to go over to some of the ballot measures. There's some really interesting ones over there. Measure 90, open primaries. I think now both major parties are saying no. I've gotten emails from fairly known Republican leaders that say yes. Your thoughts?
I think that we should vote for it because I've looked ahead, and what we're going to end up with is a three-party system with, if we stay in the course as we are presently, there'll be Democrats, Republicans, and the Independent Party. And the Independent Party and the Republicans are most closely aligned. And so I believe it's going to ensure that the Democrats win in the future once we get to that three-party system. And the open primary says, let's recognize the fact that a third of Oregon voters are not affiliated with the Democrats and Republicans. Let's let them vote as well as everyone else so that we have two candidates going in the general election. Those two candidates will be a Democrat and a Republican. And so I think that it recognizes the need for everyone to have a chance to vote. It makes the primaries relevant again. And I think long term, it's going to be good for conservatives and liberals because there will be a choice between one of each.
How come the two major parties are not endorsing it?
Because there's the feeling that anything that lessens party power is not good. And you know, I used to be against it as well, but I've just looked ahead. I said, no, where are we going? And what's going to be the best for our state? And I believe that an open primary makes sense. I'm going to vote for it. It's not a burning issue to me. It's just one of those things that I would support.
Measure 91, marijuana. It's been a mess in Washington. It's a mess in Colorado. I heard ads over the weekend of mothers that are for it. I'm trying to figure out who they are and where they come from and who's paying for them to say that. It appears to me it's real close. You feel that?
That's what I've heard as far as the polling is concerned. I think it would be wise to vote it down. I think Oregon is not ready for it. If we're going to do it, let's wait a couple of years and watch the fallout with Washington and Colorado so that we don't make the same mistakes that they're making.
Don't you think there's enough fallout now?
Well, I personally do.
Yeah.
As governor, if it goes through and passes, I'm going to implement it because that's the oath I take. And if that's the will of the people, we're going to do it. I don't think it's wise to go forward with it. I think that the scientific studies that have just come out showing the negative impact on the developing adolescent brain is very disturbing. The addiction rates is very disturbing. And it doesn't make sense as far as I'm concerned, but
at the last I looked, it's still a mind-altering drug.
Well, there is. Plus,
I mean, why are we even playing around with
here's
this?
something that people may not even consider. Yeah. I think in 4 to 6 years, if this goes through, the #1 lobbying influence, meaning money, is going to be the marijuana industry, because there's so much money to be made in this that they will end up having a tremendous influence on all future laws relating to drugs, because they will pick and fund campaigns of legislators that they want.
Okay, and the other one that's going to draw a lot of people to the polls, it was a big issue down here in Southern Oregon, as you well know, in the primary, and that's the GMO one, Measure 92. It's a different bill on this ballot than it was in Jackson County. I'm still not, I have not decided on that. It's not the same thing that was down here. What's your thinking on that one?
Well, yeah, the GMO issue is different than the GMO labeling issue. And sometimes when I really don't know which way to go, I say, okay, so what is the principle? And if the principle is having people be knowledgeable about what's contained in their products, then I'm okay with labeling. So I'll vote in favor of it. I think the whole GMO issue needs to be based on rational science and not on emotion.
Yeah.
And
but if it's just a labeling issue, what's the problem? I mean, you saw the ads against it, and all that money, by the way, is out-of-state money. That ought to be a flag warning right there. Yeah. All right, so you've been in all 36 counties. You've been in several debates. You got one more coming up
tonight. It's 7 o'clock,
and it's on another channel here in town, but we'll roll with it, Channel 5. What do you think? Of all the things that you're looking at, how does it prioritize in your mind as you talk to the people?
Jobs in the economy is the #1 issue. And these debates have been very helpful because they allow people to see Kitzhaber and myself. We don't know what the questions are going to be beforehand. We have to answer. My job is to do 2 things. One is to show the reality of where he is. It's not about what you say, Governor. It's about what you've done. This is not 2 people running for governor. He wants a 4th term. And so if he hasn't been able to accomplish these things he wants to do in the next 4 years, in the past 12 years, why should he get 4 more years? And so the debates have been helpful. The high unemployment, the lack of jobs, the despondency that people in rural Oregon feel about not being represented by a governor who spends his time, 3/4 of his time in Portland and only 1/4 of his time in Salem, but he doesn't take care of the rest of the state. There's a big issue. Education. We're losing a generation of our kids. And whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's about being able to make sure that our kids have a fair chance for the future. And then the scandals have been the icing on the cake. It's like fraud, waste, abuse, wasting hundreds of millions of dollars, scandals of involving the First Lady, who's his fiancée. She's not even, they're not even married. The whole issue about her taking money from companies that want access to the governor, and she doesn't think that's anything that's wrong with that, and he doesn't. This is a guy who's out of touch.
It seems to me that if it can be proven, and I'm assuming from the way you're saying it, that there are companies out there that actually gave her money to buy influence. If that testimony comes to light, it's over.
Well, it should be.
He's violated his office, and she certainly has broken the law.
He's complicit with unethical behavior. And there's really no question about it. The Willamette Weekly is with Nigel Jaquith. He's a guy, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning research investigative reporter. Right. He does his homework. And he's brought forth, he shows us the contracts. She entered into contracts as a consultant for energy and economic development companies. And the only reason that they would have her in that position is because she has direct access to the governor. She's spoken at different events while getting paid by the companies, but she represented herself as the First Lady and the senior advisor to the governor. That kind of mixing between official position and getting paid and not disclosing who's paying you, that's corruption. That's what we have laws against that. And the governor says, no, she's just a professional woman doing her job.
All right. You got to get this outside of being a semantical argument. This is a legal argument, right?
That's true.
And why isn't the Attorney General sticking her nose in here?
Well, the Attorney General is in cahoots with our governor. I mean, she wouldn't even defend the marriage issue when she'd taken an oath to defend the will of the people, and the people had voted on that. I mean, she's got to live with herself on what she does and doesn't do, but we can't expect her to be proactive in favor of the people and the people's interests, because that's not what she's done in the past.
One other issue before we run out of time, and that is the illegal immigrant issue, whether it relates to driver's licenses or social benefits, and services. You guys kind of sparred over that, but then again, you kind of agreed on a couple of things. What's your position?
Well, my position is that, one, I have a heart. I mean, I understand that it is very difficult for some families that have been here a long time, that are here illegally, to be able to get around without being able to drive. But our country and our state is based on the rule of law. And we have immigrants that have gone through the process, have paid the price, and are here legally, and deserve to be able to have the privileges. We don't just change the law for one group of people because we think that it's a nice thing to do. It undermines the whole concept that we have laws and that we're expected to keep those laws.
All right, so is there any way to solve this problem? Because there's certain parts of the workforce that wants these people.
Well, certainly it's a federal issue, and the federal government needs to close the border and have a rational approach to allow people to be here to work. I mean, I have no problem with people being here to work. We need employment. We need employees. It's when they're here illegally, they don't pay taxes, they work without a Social Security number, or they use somebody else's. It's about having a rational approach. We need a governor who'll be back in D.C. fighting to get that for our country.
Ebola, big issue. If you were governor, this is hypothetical, would you stop flights into Oregon from those countries?
Hypothetically, the answer is, if I could, yes. I believe that we should limit the accessibility to those that may carry it. There may be ways to work it. You could say, if you have had a quarantine for 25 days or something like that before you fly here. I mean, there's things that can be done. Just an
open flight. I mean, it seems like the Portland International Airport is just waiting to happen.
Yeah, there's only 4 hospitals in the country that are currently prepared to deal with this kind of a patient. They say, well, we'll go to the hospital. There's only 4 that are certified. I think the governor should take action to make sure that there's a 5th one, and that it's at Oregon Health Sciences University in Portland. We need to ensure that we're prepared for what could happen. You don't want to be a week late on this one. Even though it costs money, we need to prepare as if it's inevitable, because you'd rather be 5 years early than a week late.
All right, Cover Oregon's a mess. We've been there. We know we're going to have to default to the federal system. Do you see any solution to this out there? Do you sense anything at the federal level that could impact us back in Oregon?
Well, on Cover Oregon, realize this is about signing people up for individual policies in small groups. The federal government is doing that for the majority of the states already. So we need to shut it down, move that over there, and then that goes forward. Now the entire medical
system... And write the $300 million off.
Yeah, there's no choice. It's gone. I mean, they have wasted it. We're already going back to the federal system. He just denies the culpability for it. And so that money is gone. I mean, can you imagine piling $300 million and coming out there with a blowtorch and watching it flame up? That's how much benefit we've gotten from this. It's a tragedy. It was unnecessary.
And yet, Alan Bates, Senator Bates, he's a great person, and I've had him on the show, and he defends it. He says it's working, and it will work. And I'm going, yeah, who's buying that, and who's it working for?
It is blatantly not true. Cover Oregon is not working. Cover Oregon was about signing people up on the website, and they never signed a person, not one person up, all the way through on the Oregon website. It is the worst failure of all the websites and all the health insurance exchanges across the country. And to say it works now, it still isn't working. You know, we can sign up people for Medicaid through the Oregon Health Authority, and Cover Oregon needs to be shut down and cut our losses. We continue to spend money on it. We don't need to be doing that.
Well, Representative Richardson, best to you over the next couple of days. The ballots are out. By the way, DennisRichardson.com is his website. Let me encourage you to go there, and if you want to support him, you can support him there. Last minute, whatever you want to say to this audience about not only voting, but voting for you.
Well, first of all, this is our season. This is our time. This is our election. We can restore pride in Oregon as a state and in its future. We can have the chance to change our course for jobs and the economy, improve our education system, and restore confidence and trust and integrity to the governor's office. But it means everyone must vote, and you get other people to vote as well. It's like, you know, 5 smooth stones, you know. Each of these are people that you get to vote. Yeah. So let's help make sure that 5 other people vote and ask them to get other people to vote. If they want to volunteer, they can contact us a 3-hour period of time to help call people that often don't get around to voting. We must ensure turnout. That is the key to this election.
All right. And again, that's DennisRichardson.com. Best to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
It's a pleasure.